Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Allison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. Hi. In our last podcast episode, we mentioned not forcing children to hug if they don't want to hug, and I said something like, oh, that should be another episode of the podcast, so here we are. And we're going to talk about body boundaries and teaching children respect for their own bodies and respect for other people's bodies. Did you have that experience when you were a kid, Allison, where there was sort of forced hugging?
You're over
kissing?
Aunt Marianne's house, and then all of a sudden, give Aunt Marianne a hug and kiss.
Oh my gosh!
And you're like, I really don't want to.
Right? So brutal.
Yeah.
Or those relatives that you didn't know, and I remember when you were a little kid, and everybody looks just old and scary, and these were people you saw maybe once a year at a holiday or a wedding or a funeral, and everybody's like, "Go kiss her." Ugh.
No. Yeah. I mean.
Right?
You don't typically go up to any social event and hug and kiss every single person you see, or be forced to.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I know people who do, but there's certainly
But it's not by force.
It's not forced. I have people ask me all the time how I feel about children being forced to kiss relatives they don't know. And if you've ever read anything I've written or heard me speak, you can probably guess how I feel about that. But we're going to talk about it. I can't. One time I wrote a blog article about this, and I mentioned how when I was a kid, I had a great aunt that my parents and grandparents would make me go and hug and kiss, and I really didn't like it. And my mom was like, oh, we didn't know any better. And I'm like, I know that, but today we know better. And I think that there's still this generation of people who get offended if our children don't kiss them.
Yes, that is true. There's this level of offense that happens, and it's not offensive at all. It's just, I think they were raised differently, so they feel like everybody should hug and kiss, and that means this child doesn't love me. And it's like, no, that's not the case at all. He's young and doesn't, he's in control of his own space. So I think we need to let,
they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know you. What kind of a mixed message are we sending about strangers when we say to children, don't get involved with strangers, don't go with strangers, don't talk to strangers, but then I bring them to a stranger and say, now hug and kiss this person.
Now hug and kiss them. Yeah.
Right?
And I mean, think about how that, when they're fast forward 10, 15 years and they're in a stranger's presence and that person is hugging and kissing them, it's like, well, my mom forced me to hug and kiss people I didn't know when I was a kid, so this must be normal and okay, and I shouldn't say no.
It's really not okay. Consent begins in early childhood. The respect for your own body, the knowing where you want your own body, knowing you can have control over that starts when you're really young. And it starts with relatives, and it starts in classrooms. As a teacher, you mentioned in the last episode, and I will wholeheartedly agree, I have never forced children to hug me in a classroom, and I ask their permission.
Yeah, I always do. Like, even when they're upset, this is what I was mentioning in the last episode, was when they're upset, I ask them, how can I help you feel better? And sometimes they don't have the answer to that because they don't know what will make them feel better. So I ask, would a hug help you? Do you want a hug? Because for some kids, that's all they need, and they'll move on with their day. But there are other kids that are like, no, I don't want a hug. And I respect that. I'm not going to go force them. I have seen other teachers who were like, well, I'm just going to give her a hug and she'll be fine. But no, she won't be fine because she didn't want that hug. You just you added another emotion onto there. Now she got something she didn't want and she feels uncomfortable. So
right. Why cause the discomfort? If I say to a child, would you like a hug? And they say no, that's fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
That's fine.
That's okay.
But even when in other situations when the children are they're not upset. Like, for example, a pre-K child is trying to trace a line or write a letter, and I just know that if I took their hand and showed them that it would help, I still ask their permission. I do look at them and say, can I take your hand and help you? And if the child says no, it's no. The world isn't spinning on them writing the letter T perfectly today.
Right, they'll learn that.
They'll learn it. And maybe next time if I say to them, can I take your hand and help you, they'll say yes.
Yeah. And if they never say yes, that's okay. I mean, you're the adult that needs to be like, okay, I mean, I'm okay with that. I mean, they'll learn whatever they need to learn in their own time,
Right.
so you don't need to force them to take your hand to show you how to cut scissors or whatever, but I know a lot of people who still kind of do that. They just think that's the right thing to do, that's how they teach certain skills, and it's not, they'll get it.
Right.
They'll get it on their own.
I saw an article on the internet and people were commenting on it like, "Oh my God, give me a break. When does this end?" It was about I guess somebody wrote something about when she diapers her child, something about asking
Oh,
permission.
ask permission. I saw that
Did
one.
you see it?
Ask your infant child permission to change their
Did you
diaper.
see it? What did
I
you think?
saw that and I thought, I get the whole like giving consent to touch, but at that point there's a health issue there if you don't change their diaper. They
Right?
might never say yes to you.
I think it's not a
Even
question. I think
it's not a question. Like
I
this,
wouldn't ask
that's
the
not something
question.
yeah, you
No,
can't.
I wouldn't say, "Can I change your diaper?" I may say to the child, "Let's go. I'm going to change your diaper."
Yeah, I would communicate that, but I'm not going to ask them because they might say no for 3 years, and then at age
Ew.
5, they're still in this dirty diaper.
Yeah, some of them enjoy it. Some of them
Yeah,
are really
have
cool with
fun.
their dirty diaper.
I mean, there are some things that you don't need to ask permission to do, and I think that's one of them.
But don't you think
Okay.
it's a fine line? Like I read some
Yeah,
of the article. I'll admit I didn't read the whole thing. I didn't
I
have
didn't read the
time.
whole
But
thing.
but I read some of it and I thought, well, I don't think that I would say to my child, "May I change your diaper?" But I do think I'm going to narrate the touching
The
by
touch.
saying to the
Yeah,
child, "Let's go. I need to change your diaper."
I
I'm
need to
just not going
change
to
your
grab
diaper.
the kids, say nothing, toss them onto a changing table and start undressing them. I'm
Right,
going to narrate
right.
it. So
Yeah,
maybe it's
you
sort of
need to.
similar.
Yeah, you need to communicate what you're doing. Like we need to change your diaper because it's dirty, whatever. But I don't.
Or like, "You're stinky."
You're
"Kid, you're
stinky.
stinky.
Let's get
Let's go change your
clean.
diaper."
Yeah,
I mean, don't we say these things? Well, do
I
we?
know.
I feel like I
I
always
do.
did. I don't.
I do. I mean, I don't. Maybe certain people weren't, and they were just kind of putting their child up on a changing table and doing their thing and not talking to them at all.
I don't know.
I don't know, but
I don't know. I just
I
feel
think
like
if you start asking permission for that, then
right. I'm not going to
there's a
be. I'm not going to be by a busy street and say to my child, "Will you please hold my hand?" And if the child says no, just
right,
let them cross.
right. Because
Right.
I mean, it's like the one of the boundaries that we talked about in one of our previous episodes. One of those boundaries is health and safety issues. So you need to be healthy and you need to be safe. So staying in a dirty diaper just because you don't want your diaper changed is not healthy.
Right.
You
Or
know,
being by the street.
being by the
I would
street
say to the
without
child,
holding my
"Please take
hand is
my
not safe.
hand. Please take my hand. We're going to cross the street."
Yeah,
And if the child refuses, then what? Then I look at them and say, "You need to hold my hand. We're crossing the
we're
street."
crossing the street.
I,
Yeah,
and I don't, but I am somebody who doesn't just grab kids. So I'll give
right.
it that. I don't just grab them. I can't even imagine what that would feel like.
Yeah,
Right? So I
I
do sort of do a narration, even in a health and safety situation, but
yeah.
certainly outside of a health and safety situation where you're taking a child to a relative that they don't know, or maybe they do know them. Maybe they just don't feel like
They
hugging
might.
grandma today.
They might know them.
Yeah,
They might know them. And first off, your child just might not be a hugger. I
this
mean,
is
I have a
true.
little girl in my class that does not like hugs. She does not want to hug. Even when the other children want to hug her, she was like, I don't want a hug. And she tells us, I don't want a hug, which is good. She communicates it, but she's not a hugger, and that's okay. So why would I force this little girl to go to grandma's and say, now you need to hug and kiss grandma? She's just not a touchy person,
And
and
grandma's got to get over it. If
and
grandma,
grandma needs to get over it.
get over it,
Grandma's an
grandma.
adult that needs to get over
Right?
it.
If grandma is like saying to the mom, "That's insulting, that's rude," then I think as parents, we need to explain to people that the child has to learn that they actually do have independence over their own body,
Yeah,
especially in this day and age. They need to know that they get to say no and that no has meaning.
yeah. And that in certain situations you should be saying no,
And in other
so
situations, there's just no choice. And I
there's no
think when there's
choice.
no
Yeah,
choice, you don't ask a question. You
you,
make
you
a
can't.
statement.
No, this is what we're doing, and this is why.
Yeah.
You need to hold my hand because we're crossing the street and we need to be safe.
Which is really
You know,
different than you need to go and kiss Aunt Millie
Right.
Because what's the good reason for that?
Right. There, you can show your love in so many different ways that forcing a child to kiss and hug doesn't have to be one of them. You know, you might show Aunt Mary that I love her and I drew her a picture to show her I loved her, not forcing her to kiss and hug her.
Why are
There's
we
lots
picking
of
on the
different
women
things.
too? Can we give a shout out to like
Let's
maybe
talk about like an
Uncle
uncle then.
Joey? Uncle
Yeah.
Joey might get insulted, or Grandpa,
Grandpa might get insulted. It's true.
right?
Well, I think that goes along that. Let's talk about males for a little while, because when they play sports, you know, there's a lot of touching that goes on with sports sometimes. You know,
Yeah.
the smacking of the behind when they
never
did a
quite
good
understood
job,
that.
and I never quite
I never
understood
got it.
that.
I didn't get it. Yeah, I don't know.
But there's got to be some kids out there that just don't like that, but they don't say anything.
My son's athletic. I would watch it, you know, when he played Little League and stuff, and be like, "What are they doing? I don't understand that whole." Yeah.
Why is it appropriate to do that?
I don't
you know, I don't
know.
understand that.
I don't
You know?
know, but they seem to be okay with it.
They're
And-
okay with it.
right.
But are they okay with it because they watched sports growing up and they saw everybody doing that, so they
Maybe.
just think that's normal? But then you should be able to say, no, I don't want you to do that. You know, there's other ways to give me acknowledgement of a good job, like a high five, or
Right.
how about just saying, hey, you did a good job? You know, because even high fives is touching, and some people don't like that. So I don't know why. I don't know. I'm not athletic.
We're at a
so-
loss. We're obvious. The
Yeah,
two of us
I'm
are
not an
obviously.
athlete.
We're coming to the end of our time, and we're obviously at a loss. So
Yeah.
I think the message that we want to get across in this episode, though, is not to force children to hug or kiss.
Yeah.
Hugging and kissing can be a permission thing. Even when we're going to help children do something, we should ask permission if their health and safety is not at risk. Is that where we are?
That's where we're at. Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so glad when I sum it up well.
You do so well.
That's why
'Cause
we
I
do
don't.
this together. This is
It's a team effort.
yeah, for sure. And as part of this team, I want to let everyone know that we release episodes of this podcast at the time at which we're recording this one, about every other week. Please do subscribe, and you can reach us if you would like to, either by going to my website, helpingkidsachieve.com, or emailing me at cindy@helpingkidsachieve.com. You can email Allison too. Go ahead, Allison, tell them your email address.
AllisonJoy79@gmail.com.
And please tell your colleagues, your friends, your parent group, whoever you go to listen to this podcast, that it has value, because we would love for it to spread. That would so rock if we knew a lot of people.
Spread the love without forcing a hug or a kiss.
Yeah, there you go. And we're
Yeah.
going to end the episode right there, because that was just beautifully stated.
Oh, thanks.